Right, so the Brown Mountain Lights, right, are a set of ghost lights seen by a few people each year on Brown Mountain, North Carolina. It's in the Pigson National Forest. It's about 50 or 60 miles northeast of Asheville, North Carolina. Sometimes called ghost lights, also called spook lights or spooky lights, I guess. Um, Atmospheric ghost lights or fiery spheres that appear without any known natural identifiable causes. So we're talking on an orb of light, or I don't know, something you can obviously see that is somewhat unnatural. It's very distinguishable. It's kind of what we're talking about here when we're talking about these Brown Mountain lights. So it's kind of like a light just kind of off in the distance. Really weird, hard to explain. There's a ton of sightings, a ton of early references to these ghost lights. Brown Mountain lights go all the way back to 1913. Potentially the mystery surrounding these lights could be a whole lot older than that. The origin, some websites you would see dates all the way back to like 1200 AD. Which, how they knew that in the end, how that got passed down this far, who knows? But there's definitely stuff out there that you can see the potential of those have been seen in and around the area at that time. Scientific explanations try to explain these lights that are going on. Of course, you've got people who have ghostly causes for these lights. Some people say UFOs are the source for these mysterious lights. There's been false claims of these sightings over the years, but also over the past century, there have been a few truly unexplainable, actual mysterious incidents involving these lights. As a matter of fact, you can YouTube right now Brown Mountain lights and see a variety of different videos captured where they've increased the resolution or slowed down the time lapse to see these lights. And it's definitely something that happens. Like, it is a real thing that takes place. This isn't just something that's made up, figment people's imagination. To this day, Brown Mountain lights remain one of North Carolina's biggest mysteries. They've been covered numerous times by the news, local news, national news, pop culture. As we mentioned in the intro, as an episode of the X-Files examined all the different theories about what they could be. But unless we get some major, advancements in the way we can study things, scientific or paranormal investigations, may never really know exactly what these really lights are or where they're coming from. 1913 was the first official report that you can find in a local newspaper. And that was, of course, about the same time that electricity kind of became widespread in and around the area there in North Carolina. So people were seeing light bulbs off from a distance for the very first time. Some other, right about maybe just not for almost a century and a half, other surveyors noted that as early as 1770, that some kind of luminous vapor in the area was causing this as well. 1771, German scientists reported lights they described as nitrous vapor. On September 24th, 1913, the Charlotte Daily Observer published an article titled "Mysterious Lights Seen Just Above the Horizon Every Night." Now, that report detailed red lights appearing between 7:30 and 10 p.m. and without fail every night. Those are going on. No one could figure out exactly what was going on. Those are the same lights from different reports, 1913, and have appeared sometimes as white, red, yellow, orange, blue, large balls of like fire, or as small as a candlelight. The heights of the lights have been different. Some of them floating near the ground, sometimes floating way above the ground. It's kind of all over the map. Lights have been seen high, they've been seen low, they've been seen here, they've been seen there, they've been seen everywhere, pretty much around that area. The Charlotte Observer again published the initial article. North Carolina Congressman Webb, E. Webb, requested that the U.S. Geological Survey actually come in and investigate these lights to kind of calm some of the residents' nerves about them. The Geological Survey employee, D.B. Sterrett, was dispatched, and on his first night, he determined that these lights were actually local trains that were visible from his hotel. The Southern Railway had recently upgraded the headlamps to like 600,000 candle power in 1909, which may have produced the appearance of these floating lights as well. So up until 1916, most people kind of thought it was nothing more than these headlights. But flooding caused the train service to kind of go away. It washed out the track for several weeks, and that the guests at that hotel that were seeing the lights before the flood were still seeing the lights after the flood, even when there was no more trains coming through the area. So it obviously wasn't that that was causing the lights to be shown or be kind of shining through the night. There's another USGS guy came in, Mansfield's Georgia scientist, to investigate the lights as well. Sorry about that. Best lookout spot in the area where the majority of the reportings cited occurred that he saw the lights and it seemed to move back and forth in flare in brightness. Like, so if you were taking if you have a flashlight, you can dim and brighten, kind of turn the head of it, and it gives you a dim light or a more bright light. He was explaining that taking on. He said they were stationary, but they were flaring in and out. Some people thought later on corresponds to some brush fires that were kind of happening in the area. The public's concern about these ghost lights, though, they've been witnessing when no trains had been running previously. So he gave an alternate explanation. He proposed will-o-wisps, or will-o'-the-wisp, which have been atmospheric ghost lights seen at night over these bogs and swamps and marshes that have organic decay that produce this bioluminescence light. That gas is kind of going up in the air. If you think northern lights and how that kind of happens, it's not the exact same phenomenon, but it's very similar as far as kind of some of the organic stuff going on that could happen. That was his explanation. So that's kind of, I guess, a pretty good start on what all these Brown Mountain lights are.
Good job, Lance. That was really good.
Thanks, guys.
It was really detailed. So they're kind of the northern lights of the South.
Well, no, not really, because the Aurora Borealis, it's kind of like you can see it in the sky, like in waves and ripples and all these different things. These are like stationary, from what I understand. These are like stationary, almost looks like Lance was speaking, a lot of these people early on thought that they were headlights. They were train headlights. And I think that's a really interesting part of this whole thing with the Brown Mountain lights is, the people that came and said, oh, well, these are just the headlights of trains. Well, there was a huge flood that washed away part of the track that they had to rebuild, that shut down the railroad service for a few weeks, and people were still seeing the lights. So I think that's a really cool little piece of that. And I think another really cool piece of that, what Lance was talking about, was the will-o'-the-wisps. I think that's a really cool take on that too. But no, Lance, that was a really good job. That was really detailed. That was excellent.
Appreciate that, fellas. I was really took a lot of time this week to make sure that I had all the information that I needed.
I hope that you went back and listened to the episode last week. I don't know I hope you did or not, because when you stepped away for those few minutes, we really, really, really blew you up big time. And then as soon as you got back, we shut it down. We shut it down completely. So
as I was listening, I expected nothing less.
So if you ever want to feel really good about yourself and how we feel about you, just go back and listen to that clip of that episode and you're good. But anyway, back to the Brown Mountain lights. Okay, so I've heard about these things. Yeah, that's what the will-o'-the-wisp could be. Different gases that a bioluminescent gas that's been theorized in all of this. But early on, that was also argued, and I don't think they found the evidence for that they needed to say, okay, this is definitive. This is absolutely what it is. I know that recently, I'm thinking 2015, something like that, there was hold on, I don't want to get this wrong. There was some kind of scientist from Appalachian State University, and there was a paranormal investigator from, I don't remember the paranormal team, but they kind of went there together and witnessed the lights, stayed around long enough to where they witnessed the lights, and then were running tests and doing different things and debating back and forth on what they thought that it may be. And they left this whole entire investigation with the same thing that everybody's left with these lights. They have no idea. Nobody can really come up with anything conclusive, which is why I think that this is such a cool topic, because anything that, you know, experts in different fields can't go in and put a stamp on and even pretend to say, well, this is definitely what it is. I just love a good mystery. I love a good mystery, especially when it could have supernatural or paranormal ties to that, because you hear about lights. Okay. You hear about these mountain lights. Like we talked a few episodes back, Ryan, the Joplin spook lights, were related to the whole UFO phenomenon, the 37th parallel. You hear a lot of these Bigfoot, Sasquatch encounters, and you hear about these lights. You hear about orbs that are coming around in some of these encounters. You hear a lot of UFO encounters alone, and they talk about different orbs separating themselves from these crafts or these, whatever. But there's not very often that I know of anyway, that I'm aware of, that you have a set of lights like this that stay in one place, that are a regular occurrence in one spot. I mean, yeah, you have like super hot spots, like for UFO activity and things like that. But it's different accounts. It's different situations that these things are happening. With these Brown Mountain lights, it's something that just, no, you're not going to see them every night. But if you stick around long enough and you're camping out up there and you're making it a point that, hey, I'm going to see these lights, you're going to see these lights. And that it blows my mind.
Well, that brings me to mine and Lance's theory. It's possible that Brown Mountain is the Earth's asshole. And these different gases are mixing. And that's why it's stationary. You can't move your asshole. I suppose you can walk around, but
this is all it
not
does.
the Earth.
This motion is the opening and closing motion is the only movement that it does.
It's just the tightening of the sphincter.
Yeah.
Well, that is a terrible theory. So, on to something else.
It's as good as anybody else.
It's true, actually. That's a good point. I don't agree with Ryan much, but I'll agree with him on this one. That's as good as any other explanation. Nobody else has any stinking idea either. So
prove me wrong.
Well, if you look at it along the whole, hollow Earth, the Earth and being a living organism and having all these openings and closings and portals and all. I guess it could technically be.
How many other places do we know of that this same type of phenomenon takes place?
I don't know of any of
Australia.
It happens in Australia? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's just that one specific guy, though, right?
Yeah, but it's the same spot. He goes through all the time, his property. So it's always those lights. He has tours on his property because of it.
Well, Ryan, that goes into
fairies.
Your elemental lights, your research and theory on the elementals, right?
Yeah, so like we said before, the red ones are supposed to be the fire elements, the salamanders. The green ones would be the trolls or goblins or dwarves, if you will. That the white lights were the air, and the blue lights would be the water elements. Pixies, I think they said those were. But yeah, which all ties together, because if we're talking about our homie Bigfoot, I believe that's the goblins, because they were known to be shapeshifters. So. Would you walk around the woods as a dwarf, or would you walk around as Bigfoot?
I'd probably walk around as a dwarf so I could carry like this big, huge axe, like in Lord of the Rings, big double-sided axe, battle axe.
Yeah.
I gotta grow my beard out a lot longer though.
Where does this whole elemental? Where does that come from?
A book I listened to, Manly P. Hall. He's out there. He's out there. But just something I was looking into because of that other episode, you know.
Right.
When you start talking elementals, you're talking the occult. That's where Manly P. Hall operated in the occult. You know, not getting into a whole Manly P. Hall tirade, and because
if it all ties together, go ahead. But let's not talk about him specifically.
No, I'm just talking about like the occult, that part in general. And is
that his real name?
Manly P. Hall. Yeah.
What a great name that is. It's a great name. He
was look in when y'all get a chance, look in and do some digging on Manly P. Hall. He is a character. He started, I'm not even getting into Manly P. Hall because I'll rant for the
Let's
next
do that
hour.
Another day. Yeah, we'll do that another day. But
I'll rant. But if you're looking at this elemental side of it, it's almost like the being in touch and in one with nature. And, you know, as soon as somebody mentions the occult, you automatically think they've got a pentagram drawn on the floor and they're summoning demons. And that's not always, you know, what it is. This is a conjuring of and a communication with earth spirits.
The occult blanket description is natural explanations for unnatural things.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of that side of it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that side of it, you know, a lot of these lights that are seen, they're seen as different colors. They're seen as red, blue, green.
Maybe this was my fault for not knowing, having a better concept of this. This was all new to me.
Well, no, I mean, it's something when you're talking this topic, nobody knows. Nobody really knows anything. That's why it's so open for discussion. I mean, there's nothing really out there. I mean, yeah, people can have opinions. I can write an entire book right now on what I believe the Brown Mountain Lights are.
I mean, I just had the question of other places popping up, because if this was a natural phenomenon in which bioluminescent gas reacting with cold front, hot front change because of elevation change in the mountains, and that's what was causing this, I feel like this would happen more than just in Australia and on the ground. Like there would be more of these type of things taking place. That was the reason I asked, because I don't know, Ryan and I kind of joked earlier before we got started about, you know, this being just gases and pretty common, easy to kind of explain away. But if that was really the case, if this really was a natural thing, which is gases, organic decay, whatever happens is causing this, I feel like you would see that in a lot of mountain ranges pretty much everywhere.
Well, I mean,
the climate is similar to what it's like down in North Carolina.
Yeah, and that's what you're right on. I mean, that's why some people do theorize that that's what it is, because it does happen around the world, but it doesn't happen in our area. It doesn't really happen in the Appalachian.
And it doesn't happen with the frequency that it happens in Round Mountain either.
No, not. Yeah, when these happen in other places, it's rare occurrences. Yeah. Now, I mean, you do have, you know, like bioluminescence species of different organisms and stuff that will occur all the time. But this isn't what we're talking about here.
We have only one of those around here. It's, you know, lightning bugs, what we call fireflies, or lightning bugs, what we call them. That's the only ones that we have that are like that around here.
Yeah. And I'm sure at this point, if these were lightning bugs, somebody would have figured it out.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
But I mean, decay of plants, dead things like that. But there would be a lot of death on one mountain to cause that all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, these things do happen. You know, these nitrous vapors becoming, you know, oxidized or whatever. However, the whole science part of it goes, that causes them to give off these brilliant flashes or whatever. yeah, that happens, but not in the same place, you know, a lot of the times in some of these accounts around the clock, you know, in the early 1900s. One part of this whole thing that I think is really, really cool. Okay. And this gets into, well, this gets into the woo big time. This whole, the first accounts around 1912 comes off of the release of Jules Verne's book. Give me just a second.
10,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
Nope. Master of the World. Okay. Jules Verne wrote that in 1906 and it came out in 1911. Okay. And in this book, an important plot point in the novel consists of a mad scientist constructing an airship inside his secret lair in Table Rock near Morganton, North Carolina. Okay, that's where these events. Take. Well, then you've been to the Brown Mountain Lights.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been. Yeah, the Table Rock. Yes, exactly.
Okay, the activities which cause strange lights to appear on the summit of the mountain. The rapidly expanding electrification of the Linville Gorge area from the 1890s through the 1910s seems to be the origin of the Brown Mountain Lights legend, possibly helped by Verne's novel. Okay, so
which novel was it again, Justin? Sorry,
it was
Master of the World.
Master of the World.
Gotcha.
You can fact check me on that one.
No, I'm just looking. Yeah, no. Listen.
I'm doing it
you
right
ain't spreading
now.
You ain't spreading fake news. I know you're telling me the truth. I was just wanting to. I can't remember what you said.
But what I want to get into on that, and look, I'm not saying, okay,
mass hysteria.
Initially, but mass hysteria doesn't last 100 years.
No,
doesn't happen. Okay,
you said this before. Where there is smoke, there is fire.
Yes. All right. That's what I'm going with here. Jules Verne wrote, and okay, people that write today, there's no such thing as an original idea. Okay. It's all been done before. As we've said on this show 100 times, there's nothing new under the sun. All right. So there's two ways that you can look at this novel, in my opinion. Jules Verne had an idea that this kind of phenomenon was going on in this area, and he wrote an entire novel behind certain accounts and people talking about this to explain these things away in a fictional on a fictional route. Okay, that's option one. Option two, and this gets into the woo big time, is this novel was written. And because look, we hear that, yeah, possibly, this dates back to 1200 between, battles between the Cherokee and the Catawba. And we don't know any of that for sure. I mean, the first published accounts are the early 1900s. All right. So we don't really know anything for sure before that. Nothing definitive. So what if this is some form of manifestation of Jules Verne's novel? And before you go crazy on me on thinking that, look at, some of the crazy things like these. Look at Slender Man. Okay. There have been people, this is a totally fake, made up story, a creepypasta that somebody just put out there as a story. Yet since that time, there's been a ton of people have Slender Man accounts. Okay. Was this some form of manifestation of belief into reality? Now think on that one a minute.
Total side note, and I don't mean to derail just a beautifully dictated 5 minutes for you, Justin. Have you all seen the YouTube video of the Slender Man documentary where he's looking through the window? it's all like been like it just these college kids made like just when Slenderman was big back was that probably 10 years ago, right? They made this for a film class of like Slenderman terrorizing them. And like in one of the videos, like they're in the living room or they're like the frat house or whatever, and there's stuff going on outside and they're trying to get around and move. And they think Slenderman's been bothering them for a while. And it's kind of like the climax of the story. And like he like looks down through the window and the guy like pulls the blinds down and like you just kind of see like his face, his silhouette, exactly like you're looking at right there. To this to this day, me and my wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time, we were watching it because we were having fascination with it back 10 years ago, whatever. Like it was one of the creepiest things I have ever witnessed on YouTube. And I've seen some stuff on YouTube. But it was one of the creepiest things. I jumped and like turned it off. Like we were like, I'm done. This is it. I'm sorry to derail the conversation, but it was you need to find that somebody and watch that. It's like probably like a 5 or 6 minute video, but it is creepy as it can be.
Good Lord.
No, Lance, I will not watch that. That sounds terrifying.
It's crazy.
Okay.
Anyway, back to what you're saying about manifesting stories and things like that of that nature.
Well,
that's pretty much everything that we talk about, right? I mean, Bigfoot, UFOs, anything like that is all different ideas or different concepts that people have, and then we see these things take place in nature, and it's essentially just a manifestation of the things that we've read and seen. As Maverick and Nick were talking about, how you perceive things, and becomes a lot of the ways how you experience things. And it's a really good point about how these Brown Mountain Lights could just be a manifestation of this story, because it's weird that it lines up that the story was published and then 10 or 15 years later, very, very similar things were happening around this area. That is an unusual coincidence.
It is. And also in this novel, the people, and this is a year later, if it released in 1911 in the US in English, and then was, the first reported account was 1912. And then also they brought in the U.S. Geological Survey guy in 1913, a year later, due to citizens, being in an uproar. Yeah. Panic. That made me think of something else. Anyway.
In the book, too, what the lightning, this little is called, right?
In the what?
In the book, what he refers to this as, right? Did you look?
No.
It's referred to as terror. He refers to it as terror. Like when he is describing this take place, he refers to it as terror. Like eventually this terror breaks down and it goes into the sea and all these different places. But like when he's referring to this phenomenon, he refers to it as terror, which I thought was interesting.
Holy crap. Is that where cryptids are born?
Maybe.
Going off into the sea and everything like that? That's crazy.
Well, I mean,
maybe it's not the asshole. That's not where babies come from.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, I just think it's crazy because even in this book, one of the parts in the book is that the citizens also call in the Geological Survey team to check this thing out, and all. So a lot of the way things happened in real life was a lot like Jules Verne's book. So that, to me, may be the most interesting tidbit about. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Of course, these lights that's awesome. I mean, that's really cool. But this little synced up, release of this novel. And like I said, maybe it was just, maybe this had been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And, it got around in a time before the internet and before, everything was just at your fingertips in a split second. Maybe Jules Verne, who did travel the world to get, ideas for his writings and inspiration for all this and that, maybe he did come across these accounts and decided to write a novel about it. I don't know that. That's probably more logical. But I just think that it's, we talk about the occult. We talk about that side of things. And one of the main points in the occult is the manifestation of things that you desire or perceive. Okay. So when you're just looking at the whole manifestation aspect of that, just like we were talking with Slender Man, just like we're talking with, I can't think of any more examples. Sorry. Slender Man is one of the huge ones for me because that's just nuts how it started as a kind of an internet, scary story and has turned into a pop culture phenomenon. And actually, even if it's not, even if people aren't seeing this thing, there have been murders. Okay. There were 2 young girls that murdered another young girl a few years back and claimed that they were working for Slender Man. They saw Slender Man in the woods, communicated with him, and he told them to do this act. Okay. So even if we're not talking about an actual manifestation of a physical creature or whatever you want to call him, it's inspired craziness in people.
Well, that was laying there the whole time. This just kind of triggered it, if you will. There's just
yeah, it could have been, but
people are always looking for excuses to blame her crazy on.
Absolutely. But I also believe that there's entities out there that can take on the shape and the form of anything that they want to. And if they can read your mind and see what you're about and come to you in that form and influence you in this way, I mean, there's so many possibilities out there as to why these things. Now, I'm not saying that the Brown Mountain Lights are influencing anybody to go kill anybody. We're somehow this turned into a Slender Man episode, but I'm just talking about the whole manifestation into reality thing. That side of that, and then with that, with accounts early on, and then being passed down from generation to generation to generation. Do things stay alive? I mean, do they carry on? Do they keep playing out because the energy given to them or to this phenomenon?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Obviously, people are seeing it, so it's happening. We just don't know what it is.
No idea.
Because that book, 100 years later, isn't going to be causing mass hysteria. And even if it was just locals reporting it, then I'd be like, yeah, probably just the crazy cup passed down the family line. Everybody's taking a sip. But it's not just locals. It's all different kinds of people and well-educated people, and then you got the paranormal investigators. I'm not saying they're not well-educated. I'm just saying they're putting it to great use if they went to college. But, I don't know, man. I'm still going to go with that's where cryptids are born. I changed my mind. It's not farts, it's babies.
We know if there are any pictures of these Brown Mountain Lights from looking down on them, aerial shots.
I don't know.
Have you seen any of that? I've not seen any of those. Have you?
I have not. No, I haven't.
You think somebody at this point found a drone up there?
Well, there was,
and just had a chance of off chance of seeing them.
Well, what if these things are are a lot like cryptids? When somebody gets close and has, in these accounts.
I don't think the lights are like Bigfoot.
What if they are Bigfoot, though? What if it's Bigfoot operating on this mountain and that's just orbs?
I am all about a little bit of crazy. That is way too big a jump for me.
There are light sightings with 90-something% of Bigfoot.
Are there Bigfoot sightings in the Brown Mountain?
I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. I think
Look
so.
that up.
Do we know that, or is you just trying to make a connection there?
I'm trying to make a connection. I'm grasping at straws.
He's pulling that right out.
There's Bigfoot sightings everywhere.
Right.
Hey, while we're looking this up, let me tell you a little story. I was trying to say this for a bonus content episode, but I can redo it anyway. So speaking of mountain lights and orbs and all of these different things, my great uncle he lived in a holler, not far from where I live, up in the head of a holler. Well, at the bottom of this holler lived one of his buddies that he would go down there. They would play cards, for days on end and drink and, just go wild. Okay. So he was walking back home and there's this, even at the time there was a grave there. They call it I always heard it called the baby grave on Low Gap. Okay. You probably know where that is. So he had to walk by this cemetery, this baby grave on the way back up to where my grandma lives now. It's her brother.
I don't like where this is going.
Why, Lance?
I just don't. Go ahead and finish.
So he's walking back up by Low Gap. All right. And he says he gets really, really close. And he says he sees this red flaming ball of light. Okay. But it looks like flames. It looks like a fireball is the way he described it. He says this fireball comes up out of the ground where the grave is, climbs a tree, or not climbs, but, rolls up a tree that's right there on the edge of the graveyard and comes off into the road in front of him, goes back to the grave and repeats this 3 or 4, 5 times. And then was just done, completely done. And he said, look, not Justin, Dad was telling me this. He said, look, Don, I was drinking. Yeah, I was probably drunk. That's how I spent most of my time. He said, but as somebody who spent most of his time as a drunk, I can promise you I've never seen anything like that before in my entire life. He said, and whatever it was that day, that scared me sober. And right after that, every time that he would walk that same route, he would talk about how he always felt like somebody or something was walking in the woods beside him, like pacing him, is what we would explain it as, today. He would take steps, it would take steps. He would stop, it would stop. So I just thought that was a really cool. When I started looking into these mountain lights, that was one of the first things that hit my mind was this fireball that my great uncle seen at a cemetery, years and years and years ago.
That story reminds me of ball lightning, right? Something that if you look up with these brown mountain lights, one of the things you will see a lot in people trying to describe is ball lightning, in which essentially, because of atmospheric conditions, electrical currents around the local area, whatever the case may be, you'll get a lightning strike, but it doesn't, as we know, lightning, either vertical or horizontal lightning, thunderstorm, vertical lightning during a really bad thunderstorm, heat lightning that we'd see because of atmospheric cold and hot air change you see during the summertime. This is the same type of manifestation of lightning, but it literally looks like a ball that like a wizard would shoot out of his hands or something, kind of crazy like that. And I was watching a couple of videos on ball lightning this week, and there was one in which it was the thunderstorm was going off in the background, obviously, and this ball of lightning came down. It was a ring video on a door. It was what was capturing the video. It came down and essentially looked like it was kind of just on this concrete sidewalk up to the house, but then moved back and forth on this pattern on the concrete, almost like there was a string there. You pull on a toy we played with as a kid. You pull when the thing spins, and kind of what I'm talking about. That's what it looked like it was doing as it was moving up and down on this sidewalk, and eventually kind of boom, it was just gone. But very similar to that same type of pattern. That when you started to describe that, I was like, that's just exactly like that ball lightning video I watched. And just a couple of them I saw that would do that, because ball lightning phenomenon is something I was aware of, but I didn't realize it had been captured as much on video as it has been recently. And there's a lot of videos that was kind of cool.
That is really cool. That's really cool. And that's crazy that it would take on like the same pattern. Like,
yeah, it was on a string. I was just back and forth like it was. And then you think about what's probably causing that to move, the firing of electrons and protons in that area, jumping back and forth is kind of what's causing it. And it makes sense that once it uses up the energy, it leaves behind more energy, but it has to come back and get that energy. That's kind of, scientifically, if you kind of consider how that moves, kind of makes sense of why that does that. But it was really, it's cool. It was kind of a neat thing to see ball lightning take place. Like, it looks very similar. All right, ball lightning looks very, very similar to a lot of the videos that you see at the Brown Mountain Lights.
Well, the one contradiction to that theory that I've heard with ball lightning is how long these lights last.
Exactly. Yes.
With ball lightning, they usually don't. I mean, they might like the account that you're talking about right now sounds like it lasted for a few seconds at least, but sometimes these things last for minutes, hours.
Right.
So that's the contradiction that I've heard for the ball lightning theory about the Brown Mountain Lights.
Absolutely.
Specifically.
Yep.
But yeah, that is crazy though. I could see why people would look at ball lightning when they're doing like these patterns, and making these courses. I could see why they could look at that and say, well, this is sentient. This is something that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Ryan, any Bigfoot sightings?
Well, I thought I found a pretty trustworthy website until I was scrolling down to find the Bigfoot incidents, but I found one better. We gotta go up with this. I'm gonna read through it as quick as possible because it's a bit lengthy. Take me a minute.
Just take your time. Take your time. Yeah, I know you can't read good.
So Ralph Lell, a furniture salesman in 1961, decided to go check out the Brown Mountain Lights. But what he described was more than just witnessing lights. It involved an abduction and a mummy. That's right, folks.
Yes.
A freaking mummy. He went out into the wilderness to investigate the curiosity. What he reported was an encounter with a 10 to 12 foot wide perfect circle with a brown center, suspended inside a glowing ball with 3 hand-like appendages on each side that seemed to extend from it. He apparently felt the odd glowing ball scan him as he remained in a paralyzed, numb state, which he came to from it. He chased a light to a cave at the base of the mountain where it entered and Lell followed. The tale takes on an even more incredulous interpretation as he stated that a voice told him not to fear it, that it was a gas-based life form from Venus. The speaker announced that humans on Earth were colonized here from another planet that destroyed itself from splitting the electron. And the voice announced that man was nearing that situation again, in which Venusians would have to destroy it. Those are people from Venus, just so you know. The furniture salesman was then told not to tell anyone of the cave. And if he kept the secret, he would be given secret knowledge of the universe. His story goes on to say he kept that promise, even though he's telling it right fucking now. I don't know. But and the Venusians then allowed him on a vehicle to their planet to meet their people, who were all male, with the exception of one beautiful female that he was allowed to mate with. He was sent back home to warn people about splitting electrons. He was taken back to the cave where he found the mummy of a very small person with a huge head and spindly limbs. He was told he could take the mummy as proof of his experience. So, eventually, Lyle wrote a book about Brown Mountain Lights, blah, blah, blah. He placed the specimen in a glass case with a blanket over its lap, and the teeth were bared, and people came to see the oddity. The body got more attention than he imagined when the MIBs showed up. Then he died in 1978. His shop was bulldozed, and the body was never accounted for again.
Oh, dude, that was a moon-eyed person.
This is how we got Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Because I think Elon Musk is an alien.
Yeah, this dude went to Venus, slept with a Venusian chick. Elon was born.
The Venusian chick.
Yeah.
Spawned Elon.
Yeah.
They gave us Elon Musk.
Yeah.
That's just some of the internet is great. Just some of the shit you find. That's all right, Bigfoot.
Here, hang on. Before you go on, there's one thing that sticks out to me in this story.
One. There's just one.
I know there's a lot of things, but one thing that really
The hands that were protruding.
We're talking about splitting the electron in 1960.
Yeah.
Now, I teach chemistry on a regular basis.
Hopefully, you're a chemistry teacher. I hope you teach it on a regular basis.
Like protons and electrons in the shape of the atom, and knowing the location of all those things, all those photon particles, we didn't fully know that until 1930. So why would he have a concept or even an idea of splitting an electron?
Yeah, he's a furniture salesman. He also
being
said
a furniture salesman.
He also said that the Venusians were a gas creature. They were made of a gas, which we know Venus, I'm pretty sure, is a gassy planet, right? It's basically made up of gas.
So the electron was discovered in 1897 by J.J. Thomson. I didn't know. When do we get the? This is totally doesn't matter, but we got Niels Bohr. I should know this off the top of my head, but it's been a while since I've taught it. Niels Bohr had his atomic model in what year was that? I feel like it was the 1900s. Yeah, 1913. I don't know. It just to me, it's just kind of crazy. Like he's thinking about splitting the electron or talking about that in the 1960s. I don't know. That seems really odd to me because the atom bomb, and I don't know, that concept of him specifically saying that the Venusian people are warning him about splitting the electron in 1960. And it doesn't really follow. Just, you're thinking that stuff going on in the world in 1960. World War II is over. Atom bombs have been dropped. They've already figured out what hydrogen can do when it gets, in the A bomb. You've got the Cold War. We're really not doing anything nuclear yet. We really don't start dealing with protons and electrons until CERN comes along, right? And in Geneva happens, and they start trying to split those in the 80s. It just really, that was a really weird thing that stuck out to me during that story. That why that specifically? I'm like, why are we splitting an electron? If we're going to split anything, let's split the nucleus open of an atom and figure out what the protons and neutrons are doing. Like that's where the weight and stuff's at. The electrons help us make stuff. Like that's how we get chemistry. But I don't know. That was a very, very specific thing to be told and him to write down.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of crazy.
So there you go, Ryan. Keep making fun of the dude. Sounds totally legit to me now.
I'm making fun of him. That's
he gave us Elon Musk.
Yeah, we split
Elon Musk.
We split atoms in the 40s, so
right.
He could just be a well-read furniture salesman, right?
Well, we did split atoms, but like Lance is talking here, I mean that's
electrons we didn't start caring about those things till like the 70s. I mean, I don't know. And maybe I need to do more digging into stuff before I guess make any statements. But I feel like that was just a very, very specific thing that split an electron. I don't even know what inside of it. I don't even know that they even know. Do we know what's inside of an electron? This is taking Brown Mountain Line. This is taking a big turn here. But like, do we even know what's inside of an electron?
Should have never read that story.
I don't. Look, I'm with the chemistry teacher on this one. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm with the chemistry teacher.
Yeah, quarks and leptons are in it. I knew that. Man.
Hey, not only do they have Bigfoot on Brown Mountain, but it freaking yodels. That's a Bigfoot I can get on board with. Come down here, you Swiss bastard. That's
well, no, I mean,
neutral or
look, this wouldn't be the first and by far the only account of people saying that they have entered cave systems or certain areas and been visited by extraterrestrial beings and given information. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have these accounts, these stories of speaking with extraterrestrial beings and being given information. And of course, we're all sitting here laughing at this dude and his story and all of this. But I mean, if we're going to sit here, and I think all of us have expressed at least the possibility of extraterrestrials and unidentified flying objects and these different entities, we've all sit here and expressed belief in these things. Well, then why could we not believe that somebody had an encounter with one of these things and communicated with or traveled with or, was abducted by? I mean, I think that it's kind of hypocritical for us to sit here and say, oh, well, yeah, I believe these things could exist, but no, they would never, ever, ever do this. This guy's an idiot. Now, am I saying could the story have been extremely blown up and maybe added to? Well, yeah, sensationalized and exaggerated in a major way. Yeah, absolutely. But it makes a good story, right?
Absolutely. And just because I can't let things go, you all know that about me. There's nothing inside an electron. There's leptons and quarks in there, which cause the electron to spin either clockwise or counterclockwise, which allows it to get into its orbital rotation. It's just really weird. Like, it's electrons are an elemental particle, like protons and neutrons. It's just very strange that specifically these Venusians told him not to split the electron. That he would even come up with that in 1960 blows my mind. I know I'm just continuing to beat a dead horse, but that just blows my mind that he would even have the idea and concept to come up with something like that in 1960, splitting an electron. It's crazy. Maybe they did tell him.
And then you mentioned we didn't really start.
Uh-oh.
There he goes again.
Yep. This time we got a bit of a, what's that?
The great thinker. Yeah. I don't know if he's a great thinker or not, but he's at least trying to imitate one.
This could be my internet because now your face is frozen.
Now your face is frozen.
My face is frozen? You moved. I can see you moving now.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. That's strange.
Just ruining everything here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It
is nuts thinking about 1961 and he's talking about splitting electron.
I just think it's a very, very specific thing for him to say.
Yeah.
That most common worker people that, like if you and I were alive in 1960 and we're running a furniture shop or we're working at a guitar place or we're cutting wood or whatever, like we're not going to be thinking about electrons. I don't think, maybe not.
Well,
What were you
I
gonna
don't
say,
know.
Justin?
We work at a sawmill and we think about crazy shit all the time. So
That's true.
That is true. I don't know why this keeps happening. I'm getting so sick of this. Anyway, I said you were talking about how these smaller parts of the atom, molecules, all these different things didn't really start being looked at majorly until CERN.
So the hadron, what is it called? Hadron collider, whatever it's called. Yeah,
The halogen
the halogen collider. That's when we first really started looking at things. I mean, yeah, we split the atom with the A bomb back in the 40s. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that was kind of the last major subatomic particle thing that science did until CERN started. There's other little things, but not like major event like the A bomb and what they did on Oak Ridge down there in Tennessee and how they were the things they worked on was a major in chemistry. That's a major subatomic event they did, right?
Yeah,
that went away for 40 years, right, until the 80s when they started working at CERN and started shooting stuff around in a circle to speed of light to see what would and crashing into each other and see what would happen.
Okay,
very simple way of putting what's going on there, but
yeah, if you believe what I believe about CERN, and I'm just going to cut right to the chase and get right to the point that I believe CERN is trying to raise and resurrect Nephilim and fallen angels that have been chained and imprisoned. Okay, flat out, I think that's what they're doing. If that's the case, somebody should warn somebody, right? I mean, especially if we go all the way back to Lance's theory that pre-flood technology could have been so advanced to the point that we had spacecraft, we had, space travel going on, and the Nephilim that survived the flood, or however you want to look at that, actually were off-world. Okay, maybe they encountered a different extraterrestrial species there, or these are these old Nephilim that came back, and now they're Venusians that talk to. I mean, look, you can tie this all the way back around.
Never say never.
Yeah, we can say a bunch of crazy things in a row and tie them together, but it doesn't make it true.
We can call them synchronicities and say that
kittens make the best ammunition for my rifle. Doesn't make it true.
Ryan, this is a paranormal, supernatural, cryptid conspiracy podcast. Okay, at some
this
point,
was your story that you read us.
What?
Yeah, you brought this about. You did this.
Good Lord. I thought this was Smokers Anonymous.
Well, that wasn't very anonymous.
No wonder I felt like lighting up. But
dude, we have to do a CERN episode at some point. I have so much on CERN. Oh my gosh.
Listen, producer Lance, that week, just kick your heels up. When we say it's going to be the CERN episode, I'm going to
I bet
hey,
that.
Stop tapping your fingers.
I bet that the hour that he could talk about CERN, I almost guarantee when he got done with his spiel for an hour, that I could give you another hour. That's going to need to be a summertime podcast episode.
We're talking like 4.5 hour Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
Because I have some interesting theories about what's actually going on at CERN as well.
I also listened to another episode that we have to do. We've been beating around this whole pan idea for a month now, maybe longer. Man, I came across an episode of a podcast today that blew my mind on all of the connections that, even as much as I've looked into a lot of these things, that I still haven't ever made. And the crazy thing, Lance, you're going to love this one. I listened to these two incidents. Well, I'll just give you all the channel. It's one of my favorite podcasts out there, Blurry Creatures. Y'all go check them out.
Say that again. That kind of cut out.
Blurry Creatures. Go check that podcast out. I love it. Anyway, they have a guest on there a lot. Well, they have him like once every few weeks. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. His name is Dr. Judd Burton. And the two episodes, one of their newer ones was called The Tombs of the Nephilim, I think, or no, The Tombs of the Nephilim Kings was the one episode that I listened to today. And the other one was The Goat Man with Dr. Judd Burton. I think it's like episode 88 and episode 104. I think that's around what don't quote me on it.
You're right on 104.
I'm probably right on both, Lance. I'm usually right.
I don't disagree.
Man.
Yeah, you're just spot on. 88 Boom. Goat Man, 104 Nephilim.
Hey, that's what I do. That's what I do.
Brain
sun shines on the goat man's ass every once in a while.
But with those two episodes, with all the talk that we've been doing with Pan, Cernunnos, all of these horned god deities, the Goat Man episode with Judd Burton is phenomenal on all that stuff. I learned so much from that today. And then the Tombs of the Nephilim Kings, I learned a ton on that too. And they were made. Dr. Burton was making ties to that one, which ties have been made all throughout history, that Gilgamesh, we have to talk about Gilgamesh because every episode we mention Gilgamesh, but that Gilgamesh was in fact Nimrod.
Absolutely. I've said that before.
We talk about it all the time. So Dr. Burton was talking about that and how the ties or the correlation between these tombs being found and then events that happen shortly after or around the same time. So when the tomb of Gilgamesh was found, 6 weeks later, the U.S. invades Iraq. One of the first things they do is set up patrols around this tomb, around museums, around a lot of these places, and then you don't really hear a whole lot about it after that. Okay.
Have you boys watched Moon Knight?
Yeah. The whole time you were watching it, were you saying this is exactly what we've been talking about
for
I was like, holy weeks cow. Now?
Holy cow, this is crazy.
Dude,
I gotta go watch this.
Me and Connor we've watched this entire thing looking at each other like, Dad, this is what you've been talking about for weeks.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And see, that's the ties like with Pan, okay? Well, I can't dive into that right now. That's a whole new episode.
Go Brown Mountain Lights.
Because I believe that we can yeah, it was fun while it lasted. I think that I've tied a lot of my research, Lance, back to what you said about Nimrod and Sarah Semiramis. Is that her name? Semiramis?
Mm-hmm. Or Asheroth. It's kind of the same.
Yeah. I've tied a lot of this whole Pan Lilith thing back to that. And by back to that, I mean influenced by.
Originated at.
Yeah.
Originated at. That's what I mean, right? We had this, you and I've had this on personal conversation before, right?
Yeah.
All those things had to originate from somewhere, right? So you had good and evil for as long as we've been around. Okay. Satan and Lucifer and his third of angels fell. That was the beginning of evil. That's where that originated from. And Adam and Eve, that's how the evil got to humans. You had the flood that got rid of that for the most part, was the Great Reset. As far as that goes. And then we still have evil now. So where did that evil originate from? I think, and this is again total antiism here, Ryan. This is just totally me having been up too late feeding babies and changing diapers and having way too much time to think the last 3 or 4 years. I think that what we know is evil today, as far as the occult, all of the different things, entities and stuff that are demonic presences, entities that we have, I think it all originates from Nimrod, Asheroth, and the 7 scientific wonders that he kind of found or was told or developed or whatever the case may be.
It's the 7 sacred sciences. I mean, it's what it is.
And it's not a left-hand cigarette; it's just a normal cigarette, guys. So gummies are working just fine.
So then you have all that evil. You have the fallen angels. You have the Nephilim. You have the flood. You have Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. You have the tribes at that time and all the nations being split up. Then you have that influence coming on throughout every culture and civilization all throughout history, from ancient Sumeria to Babylon to Egypt.
From that point, you've got great civilizations, right? Sumerians, S-U-M-E-R-I-A-N-S, right? Travels to Egypt. That was the next great civilization. Eventually goes to Babylon. But if we go back to what you're talking about this podcast in Egypt and some of the great pharaohs of Egypt, what's the one thing that even now the archaeologists and people do? They're always trying to go into these tombs, these pyramids or these tombs they find in Egypt, and looking at these pharaohs or these great mighty men that were in charge of things, and they always find all kinds of crazy stuff, right? That took place in the rituals and the mummification rituals and religious things they would find in these tombs. And then they unearth these sarcophaguses, and these mummies are inside of them. There's always interesting things that are there as well.
One of the things that I always find interesting is whether you go off the theory of evolution or you go off of biblical standards, it all starts in the same area. Middle East, Africa, Egypt. It all starts there.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you look at all kinds of different religions and, creation theories and all of these different things, you find a lot of the same stories in each. Almost every culture and every religion has stories of a flood. I mean, there's flood stories in almost every single culture and religion throughout history. The same thing with these. If you're looking at like a pantheon of, if you're looking at all these gods and goddesses, they line up a whole lot throughout all of these different cultures and civilizations throughout history. And of course, I'm talking small g gods. I mean, there's too much there that if I'm a detective and I'm taking world history and I'm just placing it all out, there's too many connections that I can make and say, okay, this stems from somewhere. Okay, this isn't just storytelling. This stems from somewhere. And I believe biblically you can explain every piece of that. Me personally, I believe that you can explain every. I don't believe that there is a question or an idea or a thought or a philosophy or whatever. I don't think there's one out there that it may take me a little bit of time and a little bit of study and research and prayer, but I don't think that there's any question out there that is not answered in the Bible. I don't think so. But
what's this thing on my leg?
I can't say that. But no, I mean, it's all I know this took a crazy.
Yeah, it did. And here's another thing that I wanted to talk about at some point too.
Told you we went to a whole podcast on Brown Mountain lights.
We could have. My ADD.
We did. We went there. We were there for a while.
My ADD kicked in. Okay, I couldn't help it.
This is something else I wanted us to talk about sometime too. The correlation between the Greek and Roman gods, their stories, and the superheroes that we have today.
Oh yes, dude. That's yes.
Because it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it is. Dude, we are definitely doing that because
there's a ton of things that kind of correlate there with what we're able to do and what we're watching and talking about, and what's become a huge part of our society, a huge part of our pop culture. Like my little girl, she's a superhero. She's 4 and she can rattle off. She loves it. Like she does. I'm the same way. I enjoy it too. And there's such a great correlation between the gods, little G gods. The Greeks and the Romans of Zeus and Athena and all those people, and how they line up so much with the exact same. We're essentially doing the same thing the Greeks and Romans were in our culture.
You're absolutely right. It's just it's building blocks. It's all based on mythology. I mean, early mythology. And this mythology, I believe, is based on true accounts. I mean, we're talking about Goatman, Pan, Cernunnos, all these different things. Well, there's scripture that if you look at the Hebrew translation, it's a literal, you'll find in some English translations of the Bible, it'll say like he goat, in Isaiah, where it also mentions the screech owl or night terror or Lilith or Lily or Liliu. If you look at the actual Hebrew word in that passage of what you see as he goat or goats in this flock, the literal translation is part man, part goat. It's a satyr. And they were explaining at the time as this demonic kind of entity. So, I mean, with that, when you have these, you have it in the Bible, you have it throughout history in all of these different civilizations. I mean, you can't just throw this stuff out and it's, that doesn't make any sense. And that gets to the whole, this is a good one too. That gets into the whole traditional Nephilim and chimeric Nephilim thought process. I mean, there's so much there, dude. There's so much that if you look into, I mean, you could just, it's deep
Nephilim
dives.
is becoming more popular on Appalachian intelligence than the Sasquatch is.
Well, I think so.
That upsets Ryan. It makes him not happy.
It does upset me. I really, really like Bigfoot. I don't believe there are ghost lights. There's lights, but there's got to be an explanation.
Well, Ryan, maybe you can go figure it out because since 1912, nobody else has. So
maybe I saw several other cases on this podcast.
You saw all the cases.
Guess I gotta take this one down too.
Well, no, I don't think. I mean, if you look
I'm surrounded by assholes. Keep firing, assholes.
Counting all the in the room. I'm definitely not alone.
Mine was a Spaceballs reference.
Well, I'm going straight bowl beat right now. But dude, look here. You got to look at it this way, okay? Nephilim could explain all cryptids. You could literally explain the creation of cryptids when you look at the Nephilim agenda, Genesis 6. You could explain all cryptids. And not only could you do that, but in my belief in what CERN is doing, you could explain the uptick of cryptid sightings today and all of these new cryptids that people have never seen before and why they're being seen. If there is genetic manipulation going on, if there is DNA manipulation going on. If we are getting to a time like the Bible says, such as the times of Noah before the flood, maybe the Nephilim is becoming a big deal because people are trying to raise the Nephilim, in my belief.
Yeah.
Maybe early on, the reason you have all these accounts of these chimeras is because of just that. Chimeras in ancient times were cryptids today. Oh, that's going on a t-shirt. That's good. That was good.
A lot for a t-shirt. Like if you're walking by somebody and you're trying to read chimera.
Hang on, stop. Wait. Great shirt.
Excuse me, sir. Could you stop?
Hey, you know how many fat people are in the world? Like it'll fit. It'll fit.
Yeah, but we can't read it.
I'm just saying, man. I feel like you don't have to stray away from Bigfoot to go toward the Nephilim. I don't feel like you have to.
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Adam had the same theory, right?
Yeah, he did. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, his wasn't so much that the Nephilim were giants. His was just more of a giants were an ancient civilization of people that fell. But he believed that giants were, or that Bigfoot was kind of an offshoot. Yeah, that Bigfoot was kind of an offshoot of giants.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about this show, man. That's what I love about this show. We started this episode talking about Brown Mountain Lights, and we end up talking about genetic manipulation and the Nephilim agenda in Genesis 6.
Listen, boys, I could talk Nephilim every episode.
I could too.
Listen, we have covered
problem.
chemistry. We have covered anatomy. We figured out babies do not come from assholes.
That's biology.
And well, anatomy also, locating the correct one is very important, by the way. Okay? I'm just saying. That's for her benefit, too. Guys, I can't do this if all you're going to do is laugh. But I'm just trying to say how educational this was. I mean, they got Bible study in. This is like a Protestant camp. We got some chemistry. We got it all.
That's very true.
Keep tuning in, folks. We're putting more and more wrinkles in that gray matter.
Welcome to Appalachian Intelligence, folks, where you get it all.
Yeah.
Welcome to Protestant camp. Oh man, guys. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay, so we'll close this one out. Oh, the way we've been we have been doing.
This has been a good one. It's been fun.
Brown Mountain Lights.
It has been fun. And it's called Brown Mountain.
Oh,
that's why I went with asshole. 50-50 shot.
I can't anymore. This is it. Okay, Ryan. The Brown Mountain Lights. What do you think they are?
I just did mine. That's my belief. It's as good as anybody else's explanation. I don't know. It could be gases. It could be, who knows? Maybe it's the elementals flying around. Maybe it's Bigfoot flying around. Maybe it's people just messing with people with drones and stuff. Maybe it's ball lightning. But there'd be a lot of ball lightning in one place and lasting for a very long time. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if people with a lot more education than myself are going up here studying this phenomenon and coming up with nothing, I don't know. I just don't know. We'll have to go there so I can crack this case, though.
Dude, it's only like 3 hours away.
Yeah, and
That's
then we'll
not far
just
at all.
head on down to Appy State, and I'll find that professor and be like, "Here, dumbass."
We could go spend like a weekend in Asheville or Boone or wherever and go check out, set up for like an entire weekend, set up our equipment and try to capture the lights. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, Lance, what do you think they are?
Atmospheric refraction that you can only see at certain points around the mountain.
Short, sweet, to the point. I like it. Okay, I think that it is a Nephilim breeding ground. Just kidding.
I thought we were going to go with a portal.
Just kidding. I think I'm going to go with my earlier dive into the manifestation into reality of something that people were extremely concerned about at a certain point. Okay. And I'm going with that manifestation becoming a recurring incident because of the energy provided by the intent and belief of the people behind that. Okay, because we're all energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all
Everything
energy.
in this universe is made of the same exact stuff.
Absolutely.
Except dark matter. We don't know what the hell that stuff is.
Yeah. We are all, our brains, the way we operate, everything is electromagnetic field, correct? If we're talking lights and all these different things, we're talking electromagnetic fields, right? So it's not the same situation, but you take somebody, for instance, that their frequency, they'll say their frequency is a little off or whatever, and they walk into a room and a light bulb blows or cuts out, or they put on a watch and the watch dies, battery drains. There's certain people out there that can do these things. That's because we're made. We all have these frequencies. We are electromagnetic. That's what we're built at. We're brain stems and spinal cords in a meat sack. That's all we are. And a brain stem and a spinal cord reacts with electromagnetic impulses. That's how we operate. That's how these, if we're talking, ball lightning, if we're talking these lights, if we're talking all these different things, you're talking electromagnetic impulses and fields. So if there's intent behind a manifestation in reality of something that has enough force and power and belief behind that, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Maybe they're just glitches in the matrix.
That's a whole nother episode too, Ryan. Whole nother episode.
Maybe we all live in a simulation,
Is the spoon really there? Man, this has been fun, guys. This is a good one.
Yeah. This
is a good one. I think this route here, whenever I want to have good conversation. Okay. Like, I love picking these topics. I love, coming in here with an idea, but wherever the conversation takes us, that's where I want to go. Because if we weren't talking about it, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be meaningful. If it pops up on our brains and we want to talk about that, then we're passionate about it. Right.
Yeah. Well, this is how, what is that? How do you say that? This is how dreams are made and obtained. It's conversations like these when you're passionate about something, and then you find like-minded people, and then you start putting all these ideas or ideologies together, and then you start getting a broader picture, and then that dream becomes a thing. And then,
we're building a tribe.
Yeah.
We're building a tribe.
we still haven't figured out what we're going to call you, listeners. So, or listener. But,
yeah, y'all help us out with that. What do you guys want to be called?
yeah.
Like, that's really hard. I mean, we say folks all the time, but that's not, I mean, you can't just, we need to have a name for our audience.
Yeah.
Like, Sam Tripoli has the Swarm. Old Gods of Appalachia. They have family. Hello, family. I mean,
yeah. Well, we're Appalachian intelligence. We'd call them our wood ticks.
He said Appalachian. Did you hear that, Lance?
If nothing else, I did hear it.
I know you guys are doggone. You keep saying it wrong and you rub off on me.
Nope, we're fixing it. We're fixing your errors.
That's it.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with my electromagnetic activity up here. That's
Oh man, guys, this is episode 20.
Yeah, 5 more is the 25th episode. If you didn't know that math, but
that was good.
Yeah, that was fast math right there.
Episode number 20.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So, guys,
really,
thanks for.
Kind of unfortunate it took me so long to become a regular.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, man.
I feel like that's Justin's fault for not asking me something.
I think so too. Because that takes blame away from me. So I agree.
Look, early on, you don't want to be bringing on people that for a ship that you feel like possibly could be sinking. Okay, you want to make.
We had life jackets on, parachutes. We didn't know what we were on. That was.
You want to make sure that ship can stay afloat. It can make it to the locations on time, and you can get all the free food and fruity drinks on there that you want. Okay, and that's when we start bringing people on.
Yeah. It's 11:11, guys. Make a wish.
Well, my wish is to go ahead and end this episode. So
too bad you didn't. You told your wish, so that shit can't come true. So
guys,
anyway, back to Brown Mountain Lights. All right, guys.
Guys, this has been great. I love y'all.
Fun.
Yeah.
Love y'all. Love you,
boys.
Buddy.
Love you guys.
Love you, boys.
And we love you listeners out there. Thanks for sticking around with us for 20. We're going to have a new intro for y'all with this one. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I really like it. I really enjoy it. So yeah, thanks for being here for 20. We hope you're here for the next 20 and then the next 20 and the next 20, and just keep tuning in. Share it, guys. Share the show. If you enjoy the content, share the show.
Marketing.
That's it. That's it. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.
See you guys.